I'm Mr. Midnight Hollow, your chilling host, and you're about to enter another tale of terror in tonight's episode of Terrifying Encounters. Tonight, we dive into a horrifying true story of a beast that walks among us, a creature born from hatred, penance, and blood. If you're already part of our community, your support means the world to us. Each like, comment, and share helps uncover more stories like this. Or subscribe to see what is drawn out from the darkness and revealed to the world. Now, let's begin. The first time I heard about the creature was over the police radio. An urgent call coming from the rural area of Asheville, North Carolina, a city surrounded by dense forests and hunting trails long forgotten. The radio crackled, and the dispatcher's voice screamed for backup. Attack on private property, multiple injured, something attacked the horses, and possibly the owners too. Unit 4, respond. I'm Noah Redfield, 34 years old, a cop for 9. Asheville is known for its peacefulness, but in recent days, something strange hung in the air. We had received scattered reports of animals found in grotesque states. Guts hanging from trees, heads ripped off with inhuman violence, claw marks scratching barn doors. It was March, Lent, and ever since I was a child, my grandmother would say that during this time, evil walked closer to the living. When we arrived at the Palmer's farm, the scene was a nightmare. The stench of burned blood clung to the throat like mold. One of the cows had been thrown against the barn wall as if hurled by a brutal force. The front door was torn from its frame, and there were claw marks, not like from a bear or feline, but like fingers, enormous, with long, sharp nails. Inside the house, they found Mrs. Palmer's body, or what was left of it. She had been opened as if someone was searching for something inside her. Her rib bones were broken outward. The walls were stained with blood and handprints, not human hands. As I searched the rooms, I saw something in the kitchen that froze me. Footprints. They began outside, large and wide paws, and slowly, they changed. The prints shifted, claws shortened, and in the end, they were human feet, as if the thing had walked back out, in human form. Tess Morales, my patrol partner, looked at me with wide eyes. She didn't need to say anything. I'd seen it too, and I knew. This wasn't a normal attack. Back at the station, Sheriff Collins tried to keep the town calm. We're not flooding the news with legends. It was a bear. A damn hungry bear, he said. But even he didn't believe his own voice. Especially since the week before, a bear had been found dead 10 miles away, its guts eaten and skull crushed, and now a woman, torn apart inside her own house. That night, Tess called me in the parking lot. She held an old box, smelling like tobacco and mold. It's from my grandma. She lived in the mountains, grew up hearing stories about the Lent beast. There's something you need to see. Inside the box were yellowed newspapers and a diary with torn pages. Several accounts from 1964. Same pattern. Deaths between March and April, always in remote areas, with mutilated bodies, torn-up animals, and footprints that vanished into thin air. The most disturbing was a note dated 1966. It doesn't kill out of hunger. It kills because it hates the world. It comes when blood is ignored. It's not a beast, it's penance. Tess was convinced it was real, and I wasn't sure of anything anymore. 2 days later, another attack. This time at the Vance property, south of town, a sheep farm. We arrived in the morning and what we found was carnage. The smell hit from far away, a sweet metallic stench of meat exposed to the sun. The sheep were piled on top of each other, but not randomly. It was intentional, like a grotesque totem of flesh. And atop the mound, the body of Daniel Vance, 44 years old, his face ripped off, as if someone had torn away his mask of humanity. There were drag marks leading into the barn, and inside, another symbol, scratched into the wood in blood, a kind of circle with spiral claws. Tess looked at me and muttered, "This is ritual, not an animal. This is something that knows what it's doing." We found Daniel's wife in shock, hiding in the basement. She kept repeating the same sentence. He looked at me, before he died, and said, "She's back." That night, Tess came to my house. She brought bottles of bourbon and her grandma's diary. "There's a name here, Noah. An old man named Elijah Kane. He used to be a pastor, but they say he left religion after facing the Lent beast in 1979. We went to the address the next day. Elijah lived in a cabin almost at the edge of the world, surrounded by dead trees and wooden crosses stuck in the ground. He looked dead inside, until we said the word. Lent. He looked at us with a fear only someone who had stood before the beast could carry. "You're late," he said, his voice hoarse. "She's already back, and now she's multiplying." On our way back into town, we got a call. Triple attack on a hiking trail near Pisgah Forest. We rushed. Found the bodies of 3 young tourists, 2 men and a woman. Their faces were inverted, like they had been turned inside out, exposed. And beside them, more footprints. Those same footprints that began as paws and ended as feet. The thing was out there, walking among us, killing without reason, transforming with its touch. And it was only the second week of Lent. The city of Asheville woke up in silence. Not that peaceful silence of small-town America, but a silence of containment, of fear, as if the land itself was holding its breath. 3 mutilated bodies on a trail, a farmhouse turned into a blood altar, and a trail of footprints that defied any biological logic. And there was also Elijah Kane's warning. "She's multiplying." Tess hadn't slept in 2 days. In the passenger seat, she bounced her knee, dragging her nails across the leather of the door. We were headed toward the old chapel where Elijah said he had seen the thing for the first time, abandoned for decades near the Blue Ridge Parkway. "You think he's right?" she murmured. "I don't even know what to think anymore, Tess. I don't know if it's a monster or a cult. What if it's both?" I didn't answer, because deep down, I felt that possibility scratching the edges of my sanity. The chapel was a crooked structure, devoured by moss and time. The windows had been boarded up with old planks, and the door creaked as if it was about to collapse. Inside, it smelled of mold, melted wax, and upturned earth. On the altar, we found markings, dried blood on the wood, circles scratched with rusty nails, small bones, maybe from animals, maybe not, placed in specific positions as if part of a forgotten language. Tess walked between the pews when she found something. A piece of cloth stuck to a splinter. A thick fabric, stained with fresh blood. But what froze us in place was the sound coming from the basement. Footsteps, not normal ones. Heavy, dragging footsteps, followed by a breath, deep, irregular, as if the throat was filled with something thick. We drew our guns, went down slowly. The wooden steps moaned beneath our feet. Every step seemed to summon the thing closer. At the bottom of the stairs, the flashlight revealed a figure hunched in a corner. It was a man. Or used to be. He was naked, skin covered in sparse hairs, his eyes completely black. Long nails scratched the walls as he muttered, "She's back. She's back. She's back." Tess approached. "Hey, are you hurt? Who is she?" The man stopped. The muscles in his neck cracked. Slowly, he turned his head toward us. What we saw wasn't human. The skin on his face was stretching, as if something was pushing from the inside. His jaw trembled, teeth growing before our eyes, turning into uneven fangs. His eyes, once black, now gleamed a dirty gold. He let out a guttural sound, too high-pitched to come from a man, and then lunged. Tess fired first. The first shot hit him in the shoulder, but he didn't stop. He came stumbling forward, fast. I leapt to the side and fired twice into his chest. He fell, gasping, and the basement floor began to fill with blood. But even on the ground, he laughed. A wet, forced laugh from a mouth that shouldn't have been able to make anything but growls. She already walks the streets, already touches your children. With a final breath, he died, or what was left of him died. Tess was pale. That was a transformation. We got here before he finished. We stayed silent. The laughter still echoed inside us. Back at the station, Collins nearly had a breakdown when we described what we'd seen. "I should suspend you for bringing this kind of paranoia into my station," he shouted. "Do you know what'll happen if this leaks? We already have 3 funerals scheduled." "Then you tell me, Sheriff. What the hell was that man? Why was his flesh twisting like that?" He didn't answer. The town was beginning to panic. Reports of disappearances were spreading. A teenage girl who didn't come home from school, a trucker who vanished on I-26, a whole family who hadn't answered the door in over 48 hours. The strangest part, the only link between them was location. They all lived near trails or isolated areas. The monster chose isolation, or rather, she did. In the 3rd week of Lent, chaos began. The first urban area attack happened at 10:14 p.m. on a Saturday. Oakley neighborhood. 2 teenagers broke into a middle-class home thinking it was empty. They wanted to make a video for TikTok, something about exploring the witch's house. They found the owner, or what was left of her, tied up in the basement with symbols carved into her body. Neither of them made it out alive. When the police arrived, they found a trail of destruction leading into the woods behind the house. There was blood, fur, claw marks on the trees. And again, footprints that started bestial and ended human. Tess and I got there before forensics. Behind the house, we heard the crunch of branches being stepped on. I pointed my gun. "Is someone there?" Nothing. Silence returned, heavy. But the smell remained. Strong, sour, like sweat-soaked meat left for days. Then it moved. We didn't see the full body, just a flash. Glowing eyes in the dark, teeth far too large, a distorted silhouette between the trunks. She was watching us. Then she vanished. Tess turned to me, pale. "She's too close." We got back in the car. I got a call from dispatch. Another death. A couple found torn apart in the state park parking lot. Tess went quiet for a few seconds. "She's speeding up, Noah. This is turning into a hunt." I looked in the rearview mirror. The night seemed to swallow us. Lent wasn't over yet, and she hadn't even truly begun. The next morning, the city woke under a layer of fog. Not the usual mountain fog of Asheville. This one was thicker, sticky, as if something was hovering over the houses, breathing silently. Residents no longer went out as much. Churches were full, but the atmosphere was one of desperation, not faith. At the station, chaos had a new name: transformation. 3 new attacks in less than 24 hours. And for the first time, 2 survivors. The first was a 17-year-old boy named Luke Benson. He lived with his grandparents on a property near the French Broad River. A farmer found him crawling through the brush, naked, covered in blood, his eyes yellow. They tried to take him to the regional hospital, but he went berserk in the hallway, bit a nurse, ripped off part of a paramedic's cheek with his teeth. He was sedated and strapped to a gurney. Tess and I arrived at the hospital at 9 a.m. The isolation ward was under heavy security. When we entered the room, Luke was restrained with leather straps on his arms and legs, but he was smiling. It was a wrong smile, uncomfortable. Something about his face seemed off, as if the human expression was being forced by muscles that no longer knew how to fake it. "Do you remember what happened?" I asked. He only answered with a sentence. "She showed me. What comes after man?" Tess leaned in. "Who is she?" "She is hunger. She is the justice of flesh. And she has chosen." "Chosen what?" I asked. He widened his eyes. "The new ones." The second survivor was a woman, Carol Stein, 42, a long-haul truck driver. She was attacked at a rest stop on I-40, but managed to escape wounded and cross the road to a convenience store. When paramedics arrived, she was in shock, her arm shredded, saying the monster spoke to her. It whispered, in my ear. Not with words, with something inside, like a language I already knew but had never heard, as if I was part of it. She died 5 hours later. Her body collapsed. Blood pouring from her eyes, spasms, howls. The skin on her chest split open as if something was pushing from inside. But there was no birth, only destruction. We returned to Elijah Kane's cabin. The old man was sitting on the porch, rolling a hand-rolled cigarette, as if he'd been waiting for us. "You saw it, didn't you?" he muttered. "She's not hunting anymore. She's calling, multiplying." "Multiplying what?" "She doesn't have to bite everyone, just touch. She touches the soul. And when she sees the soul is weak, she enters, starts slow. A dream here, a voice there. Then comes the fever, the pain, the hunger, and before you know it, it's changed." Tess stepped closer. "How do we stop it?" Elijah looked at the ground. "You have to kill her. The original, the root. But she's old, ancient, been alive for generations. She wasn't born here. They brought her with sin. Every time someone breaks the fast, she wakes up." That night, a group of hunters decided to arm themselves and enter the woods on their own. They thought it was a sick bear, or maybe a sect of lunatics. One of them streamed part of the incursion in real time on social media. For 30 minutes, we saw flashes of the forest, armed men walking in a line, muffled laughter and nervous tension. Then the signal dropped. The video froze on a single frame, a shadow with golden eyes in the trees, perched on a high branch. The body of the group's leader, Travis Knowles, was found in the morning. It was wedged between 2 tree trunks, limbs torn off and stuffed into his own abdomen. A message was carved into his chest with claws. "There is no redemption without pain." The other 4 were never found. The following week, Tess and I started mapping the attacks. We discovered that the creature was moving in a pattern, as if marking territory, forming a circle around the city. At the center of that circle, the old Asheville prison. Deactivated 20 years ago, abandoned, and according to old records, built over an indigenous burial ground. Coincidence? There was no room for that anymore. "That's where she sleeps," Tess said, looking at the map. "That's where she comes from." We decided to go in, no backup, no Collins, just the 2 of us. We arrived at the prison at 3 a.m., in the middle of the 4th week of Lent. The main entrance was locked, but the side gate, the one where they used to bring in the condemned, was ajar. A cold wind blew from within, and with it came the smell. Blood, rot, wet fur. We crossed the central courtyard. Nothing. Silence. But the cells were open, as if someone, or something, had released the inmates. On the walls, symbols scratched in blood. Circles, claws, eyes. In the north corridor, we found the first remains. Human bones. Many. Arranged in inverted crosses. In the center, a skull painted with a dark substance. Maybe feces, maybe coagulated blood. Tess stepped closer. She's here, I can feel her. Suddenly we heard it. A deep, dragging sound, as if a body was being pulled across the walls, claws scraping concrete, heavy breathing, and a deeper noise, as if something moaned inside the walls. The hallway lights flickered, and then she appeared. First the eyes, then the teeth, and finally the form, enormous, covered in dark fur, her jaw hanging from one side, as if broken and never healed. Her fingers were long, thin, almost human, but her arms dragged on the ground with brutal strength. She walked like both wolf and man, at the same time, and when she spoke, there was no voice, only a sound that entered through the flesh. Children. We opened fire. The shots hit her chest. She staggered, but didn't fall. The next hour was only escape. Gunshots, screams, blood, and the certainty that the thing didn't just want to kill. She wanted to convert, and she almost did. The next morning, we woke up in the hospital. We had managed to escape through a side window of the prison, our bodies nearly spent. Tess had been slashed in the ribs by one of the creature's claws, a deep laceration that left her out of commission. I had 7 stitches on my shoulder and a bruise on my ribs. But we were alive. Barely. Sheriff Collins tried to cover everything up. He told the press it was a collapse, a rotten section of the prison structure that fell on us while we were investigating a tip about homeless squatters. A lie. And he knew it. I sat up in my hospital bed and wrote everything down. Every detail. I sent it to 5 contacts in the local press, all investigative journalists who should at least have raised an eyebrow. But no one replied. No article came out. Nothing. That's when I realized. The city knew, or at least some of them did. And they were staying silent. Tess was discharged 2 days later. We returned to the station to collect our belongings. Collins was waiting for us. "Turn in your badges," he said. "Do you not understand what's happening?" I shouted. "This city is being swallowed by a curse, and all you want is for us to disappear?" "That's exactly what I want." He was afraid, not of us, but of who or what was in charge. Tess dropped her badge on the desk without saying a word. We walked out of there knowing we were now alone. That same day, new reports surfaced. Children with high fevers, delirium, shared nightmares. A high school teacher had a breakdown, saying her students had wolf eyes and refused to pray. An evangelical pastor was found dead at his altar, his throat torn and a crucifix impaled in his chest. She was spreading her faith, a faith without salvation. We received a call at 3 a.m. It was Elijah Kane. His voice was choked. "She touched my land. My house is cursed now. They're in the yard. I need you to come." We arrived within 20 minutes. The house was surrounded. 4 figures circled the property. Naked men, covered in mud and blood. Their bodies in transition. Arms too long, spines protruding, jaws dislocated. They seemed to agonize between 2 natures. "Elijah, stay inside," I shouted. "We'll handle this." But there wasn't time. One of the men charged. I ran at him, unloading a shotgun blast directly into his chest. The creature was thrown back but got up, coughing black blood and smiling. It ran in a zigzag, stumbling like a diseased marionette. Tess fired twice. Finally, it fell. Another came from the side, leapt onto the hood of our car and lunged at me. I felt the claws rip through my vest, tearing pieces of my shirt. I rolled, pulled a knife, and stabbed it in the neck. Nothing. Only when Tess jammed a piece of wood into the creature's eye did it scream and fall dead. Elijah opened the door and fired his old sawed-off shotgun at the remaining 2. When the smoke cleared, all 4 bodies lay scattered on the lawn. but they were no longer human. Fur, claws, soulless eyes, incomplete transformations, aborted by death. Tess dropped to her knees. They're multiplying. This shit's turning into a contagion. We sat in the living room with Elijah while he stitched up his own leg. A nasty bite. Not everyone turns, only the ones she chooses. The ones with cracks. People broken inside. She sees the flaws. How do we find her again? I asked. Elijah looked into the fireplace. She only appears when she senses a threat, when she knows someone wants to destroy the seed. Tess stood up. Then let's plant the threat. That night we crafted the plan. Lure the creature to a single location, an open field, a trap. Elijah knew an old abandoned silo on the edge of the county, isolated, quiet, surrounded by forest. Perfect. We filled the place with hunting traps, kerosene cans, gasoline, and rural dynamite. Everything we could buy or steal. I stole ammo from the old police arsenal. Tess forged delivery orders. Every step took us deeper. Every second without an attack made us believe she knew, that she was waiting. On the eve of the trap, Tess vanished. I got a call from Elijah. She's gone. Her GPS pinged in the city center. Then it stopped near the old Catholic school. I rushed there. It was dark. The place looked different. On the side wall, a message scratched in blood. You will be mine. I entered with my weapon drawn. The school was empty. But in the auditorium I found signs. Tess's clothes torn, blood on the floor, claw marks, but no body, no Tess. A voice crackled through the school's old intercom, hissing like a cursed radio. She is preparing to be born again. I dropped to my knees. The trap had to work. It was our only chance. The silo was 25 minutes from Asheville, down a dirt road forgotten by time. A cylindrical, rusted structure hidden by dense oaks and tall underbrush. A place where even the sound of the wind barely reached. It was the perfect setting for sacrifice. Elijah and I spent the day preparing everything. We rigged improvised mines using gasoline cans and nails, stretched nylon wires between trees, covered the silo walls with old symbols drawn in charcoal and coarse salt, based on the pages from Tess's grandmother's diary. Elijah believed it would keep the creature from escaping easily, or at least slow her down. We did everything we could. I hadn't slept in 2 days. With the adrenaline, the fear, and Tess's absence, time felt doubled. Each second dragged with a million thoughts. Was she still alive? Had she transformed? Was she now one of those things crawling through the walls like sacred worms? Elijah called me to the back of the silo. He held a wooden box. This belonged to my great-grandfather, he said. A Winchester 1895 modified, double barrels, loaded with shells made of silver fused with iron from church nails. He handed me the weapon. If she gets too close, don't think. Shoot. The plan was simple. I would be the bait. I'd stay inside the silo. Elijah, from the high ground on the nearby hill, would monitor the area and trigger the traps if necessary. We had scattered pig's blood across the floor to simulate a recent slaughter. The smell filled the air with something almost tangible, the very memory of death. Night fell. The full moon lit the field. The air stood still, as if the whole world was holding its breath. Inside the silo it was just me, the Winchester, a long hunting knife, and fear. At 2:43 a.m., the first sign. Birds took flight erratically, as if an invisible presence had sliced through the air. The branches creaked, the sensors vibrated. She was coming. At 3:01 I heard the first sounds, a heavy dragging of claws across the ground. Then footsteps, human ones, the combination of both. as if something was adapting while approaching. A body in mutation, flesh molded by malice. The silo roof groaned. Drool began to drip onto the concrete. She was above me. I took a deep breath, raised the gun, and shouted, "I'm right here, you bitch! I'm right here!" And then she descended. She didn't jump, didn't fall. She slid down the side of the structure like a possessed liquid, and when her feet touched the floor, I saw her face. Or rather, what was left of Tess's face. Her skin was still there, stretched and torn, mixed into the beast's form. One human eye dangled from its socket, swinging with the movement of the warped skull. Her mouth was now a slit of sharp teeth and dark saliva. Her hands had fused into claws, but the arms were Tess's. My scream died in my throat. "No! No! No! Tess?" The thing stopped. The voice that came out was a mix of many, hers, mine, and someone I'd never known. A sound that vibrated through bone. She loved me so much. She opened the door, and then it attacked. The first strike came fast. The claw tore through the air and ripped part of my arm. Blood sprayed across the silo walls. I rolled to the side, firing the Winchester straight into the creature's chest. The impact was brutal. It flew backward, crashing through one of the inner columns. But it rose quickly, flesh sizzling where the silver hit. I reloaded with trembling hands. She charged again. The second shot hit her shoulder, tearing the entire limb off and slamming it against the wall with a dry thud. A howl echoed through the silo, something between rage and pleasure. She didn't feel pain like we did. I fought with everything I had. Slashed, shot, screamed. But the thing was faster, stronger. Each time I hurt it, it regenerated. Slowly but visibly. Then the ground shook. The mines were triggered. The silo roof exploded in flames. Elijah had pulled the ignition cord. Fire rained down the walls like hell's downpour. The creature tried to escape, but the symbols held her long enough. I ran to the exit, bleeding, exhausted. Elijah appeared on the other side. "Go!" he shouted. I jumped. The silo exploded. The creature shrieked, not in a beast's voice, but in human screams. Many, all at once, as if all the souls she had corrupted were burning with her. The fire lit up the forest for miles. The sound stopped. Hours later, at the hospital, I got the news. No body was found in the wreckage. Not Tess's, not the creature's. Elijah disappeared. No one saw him again. The town went back to normal. The deaths stopped. But I know the truth. She didn't die. She's only sleeping, waiting for the next Lent. 2 weeks after the silo explosion, the local newspapers returned to their usual headlines. Accident in abandoned structure. Fire confirmed with no victims. End of mysterious attack wave in Asheville. The city wanted to forget, to erase every trace that something had gone wrong. But I, Noah Redfield, knew the truth. And every time I closed my eyes, I saw her. In the fire, in the flesh, in the shadow of Tess. The image of that half-human, half-beast face, the glowing eyes amidst the smoke, haunted me. I tried to convince myself that she had died, that the explosion had worked, but deep down, a part of me was screaming, she survived. I was permanently removed from the police force. Severe post-traumatic stress, said the report. They told me I needed rest, therapy, time, but I didn't need any of that. I needed proof. I spent days scouring the area around the silo. The vegetation had burned down to the root. Trees had turned to charcoal skeletons. Animals avoided the place. But at the epicenter, at the spot where the creature had fallen, there was a crater, and inside it remnants, flesh, fur fused with twisted metal, bones, too many to be human. And a ring. A simple silver ring, charred, with the initials TM. Tess Morales. She had been there. She was the creature. But what did it mean? Had she died? Or was the part of her that was still human, resisting? A month later, I visited the Catholic school where the first signs had been found. Closed indefinitely, the building was boarded up, but the side entrance still allowed access. I went inside. The smell lingered, not of death, but something deeper, a presence, as if the bricks remembered what they had seen. In the basement, I found the old confessional. And there, carved into the wood with claws or a knife, a new phrase had been left. She waits for those she has chosen. The air turned cold. I stepped back, turned on my flashlight, and then I saw something on the opposite wall. A series of names, all scratched out, except one, Noah. I returned home and dove into the files, reviewed photos of the attacks, maps, timelines. I discovered something I had missed before. All the attacks were concentrated in a nearly perfect line. A spiral. Like a pattern of sewing. It was planting. She wasn't just attacking, she was preparing. But preparing what? That's when I understood. The explosion wasn't the end. It was the beginning. The following week, 3 men were found dead in Hendersonville, just over 30 kilometers from Asheville. 2 fishermen and a night watchman. The deaths were covered up, but unofficial sources sent me photos. Same signature. Opened bodies, claw marks, bites, and symbols drawn with the victim's blood. She was on the move. I had to act. I went back to Elijah Kane's cabin, now completely abandoned. I found the old diary of Tess's grandmother, hidden under the floorboards. Inside it, an envelope with instructions. If she survives, the blood of the chosen will be the key to close the cycle. I was the chosen one. Not by faith, but because she had marked me. During the silo attack, she had wounded me. Deep. The blood she left in me was hers too. A link. A connection. So there was only one way to stop her. She had to die by my hand. I bought new weapons, silver ammunition, burned old clothes, started living from town to town following the pattern. The attacks returned in small clusters, always disguised. Animal attack, suspicious death, rural cult. But I read between the lines. She was hunting, creating a new cycle, and waiting for the next Lent. On the night of February 21st of the following year, Ash Wednesday, I heard the new message for the first time. She walks again. I received the warning by letter. Anonymous, no return address. Inside a strand of hair, dark brown. Tess. It was time. It was the end of winter. Snowflakes still touched the ground like ashes from a past no one wanted to remember. In Asheville, businesses kept running. Residents went about their routines, but there was something in the air. The city didn't know it yet, but she had already returned. At dawn on Good Friday, the signs reappeared. A priest was found dead with his eyes removed and placed in the communion chalice. In a children's shelter, 3 kids were hospitalized with extremely high fevers and scratch marks all over their bodies. And on a mountain trail, the body of a man appeared whole, intact. Except every one of his bones had been broken and repositioned incorrectly. As if someone had disassembled and reassembled him out of pure sadism. But that wasn't what brought me back. It was something else. A recording. An audio sent from a blocked number. Tess's voice. Noah, meet me where it all began. I went back to the abandoned prison, the same place where we had faced the creature months before. This time, I came prepared. Thermal clothing, a silver knife, a sawed-off shotgun, 2 revolvers with special ammunition, and a tooth from the creature that Elijah had given me, strung into a necklace with coarse salt and braided straw, a gift against the beast's call. I entered. The structure felt more alive. The walls breathed. I could hear it. They dripped, vibrated, as if bones and flesh lay beneath the concrete. In the east wing, I found fresh blood. In the corridor where the first attack had occurred, footprints, and then the voice. You came back, because you always belonged to me. She stepped out of the shadows as if born from them. She was no longer just a creature. She was a human form, the face of Tess almost intact, eyes glowing gold, her body shifting between woman and monster. The skin looked like it was being worn as clothing. I tried to fight it, she said. But what's inside is older than faith, older than God. I pointed the gun. Are you still in there? She smiled. Depends. Do you want to save me or kill me? I hesitated, and that nearly killed me. She lunged, fast as lightning, slammed me against the wall, claws raking my armor. I rolled to the floor, pulled a revolver, and fired straight into her chest. She staggered, screamed, but didn't fall. I ran. Through the prison's corridors, a chase, claws slicing the air, screams mixing with the sound of flesh dragging. She cornered me in the south wing, the final hallway. I triggered the bomb I had planted. It was now or never. If there's still something of Tess in there, then hear this. You're dead. She's dead. And I'm going to bury you with her. She charged, and I detonated the bomb. Fire, iron, shrapnel. The creature flew backward, part of her face torn off, half her chest engulfed in flames. And I threw myself on her, with the knife. I drove it into her chest, once, twice, 3 times. Go. Back. To the hell. That spawned you, I muttered, with the blade buried in bone. She grabbed me with her dying hand and whispered in Tess's voice, Thank you. And then she died. For the first time, truly died. Her body sank, melted, dried up. Nothing remained but smoke and the scent of old blood. Outside, the sun was beginning to rise. The first morning of Holy Saturday, Lent had ended, and with it, the curse. For now. After the explosion and the death of the creature, I began to carry a different silence inside me. It wasn't the kind of silence that follows grief. It was something deeper. As if a part of my soul had been ripped away, left to rot in that prison where everything had begun and ended. The days that followed were confusing. The newspapers reported another fire in the old penitentiary building, caused by vandalism. What was left of the structure was demolished, and the land was surrounded with police tape. Once again, the city chose to forget. Asheville wanted to bury the horror and move on, but evil doesn't disappear just because you choose not to look at it. I moved away, got in the car, and left without a destination. I only carried what was left, a photo of Tess, the necklace with the creature's tooth, and the knife I used to kill her. It didn't seem like much, but it was too heavy. For weeks I slept in motels, campsites, roadside homes. I never again slept through a full night. I still heard the screams, still felt her presence in my dreams. The problem with facing hell head-on is that sometimes it stares back, and when it does, it marks you. A month later, I stopped in a small town in Tennessee called Harriman. It was peaceful, houses with porches, local shops, children playing in the street. Everything seemed normal. But then, on the second night, I heard it. A child screamed in the night. It wasn't a normal sound. It was a scream of terror. Real. I ran to the house where it came from. On the porch, a girl of about 8 was crying. The mother rushed out and thanked me for coming. said her daughter suffered from intense nightmares. The girl kept repeating the same phrase, "The golden monster is calling me." My heart froze. I asked to see the girl's drawings. She had drawn a creature with a wolf's body, a woman's arms, yellow eyes, and a huge mouth full of teeth. Around the creature, people with hollow eyes were kneeling. A cult. She was coming back, not the same one, but another, an echo, a fragment, a virus. I returned to my car, opened the notebook where I had written everything since the first attack, and wrote 3 words. "It's not over." I closed the notebook, took the necklace with the tooth. Evil now spread like a plague that no longer needed the original creature. The seed had sprouted. And me? I was the last one who knew the truth, the last one who could stop her from growing. So I did what anyone would do. I turned the engine on and went after her. Because hell may sleep, but it never dies. Dylan's experience in Asheville is a chilling testament to how ancient evil never truly dies. It only waits to be reborn. The season of Lent may have ended, but the curse is far from over, and we'll be here to uncover what awakens next. Like this video if you felt the dread creeping in through every shadow. Comment below. What moment left you breathless? Share this story with someone who still believes that monsters are only found in fairy tales. And above all, if you dare to face what lurks in the dark, subscribe to Mr. Midnight Horror and never walk alone through the silence again.